problem. We've all been there.
All right, the meeting is being recorded. Okay, so this is the regular meeting of the Tourism and Economic Development Advisory Committee. It is July 22nd, 2021, and we have a quorum. We've got a lot to cover, so let's quickly review the minutes. If anybody's got any changes, if not, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented. BJ, okay.
Can I vote even though I wasn't here, given the write-up, or should I abstain?
I'll probably abstain. Anybody else who was in attendance want to? Greg, you can. Laura. Okay. All right. And so everyone in favor except for the one abstention. Okay. Actually, you should probably abstain too, Rita, since you weren't full-fledged then.
I'll abstain. I'm full-fledged now, though I didn't get sworn in. I got sworn in yesterday.
Oh, you're official. Love it. Okay. Nancy, is Eric going to join us?
I thought he was. He's not here? Okay.
I don't see him, but we can always go to another item. Let me just make sure that he's not in here looking. I don't see him. So we will.
He told me he was going to join, so maybe he's just late.
Okay. So one of the biggest things that we've got going on right now, and we've talked about this at our last meeting, but are these ARPA funds. Hi, Karen. There she is. By the way, Grace Farms, the governor was at Grace Farms on Monday. First of all, he was there acknowledging the great work of Grace Farms for procuring PPE during the height of the pandemic. But Karen, he had never been to Grace Farms before. He was blown away. You should have seen his eyes.
Thank you so much for going, Tucker and Kevin. It meant so much to Sharon and everyone that you were both there.
Well, it was great to be there. And I, one of the reasons that he was there was they signed a bill to simplify the procurement process at the state level. He said normally at the state level, if you needed to buy something, it's a minimum of a 3-month process of paperwork and but obviously during the crisis, they needed to be able to buy things, and they realized there was a lot of red tape that they could work through. So it was a great event. So thank everybody at Grace Farms for that. But so as you all know, we've talked about this before, but the town is getting close to $6 million in relief funds. We have already received our first tranche on June 25th of $2.9 million that are just sitting in a grant fund. They haven't gone to the general fund. They will sit in the grant fund. And then we'll get our second tranche within the next fiscal year. But we have up to 2 years to spend it. As many of you know and attended, TDAC along with the Community Foundation and the Chamber partnered a week ago to have a forum where we were really asking for community input. The focus was on the nonprofit side of things and the local business perspective or wishes and dreams. And it was a great session. We actually had gotten a number of folks had submitted some feedback prior to the actual forum. A number showed up and presented some of their ideas. You might have read about this. Grace and others have been reporting on it. And it really ran the gamut from basic infrastructure needs to things like helping the YMCA expand their daycare. Helping a lot of the nonprofits talked about some of their programs that were impacted and things like that. I've got a write-up. Lauren Patterson wrote up sort of a summary of some of the requests. Since then, we've had the Board of Finance has met and the Town Council has met. And as government works, everybody wants to know, those two bodies specifically want to know what their role in the process is. And actually right now, that really it's a very valid question as to what the process is going to be for who determines where these funds will be spent. I mean, who's going to decide, right? Who are the winners and who aren't? And it's our understanding, well, actually tomorrow we'll be posting to the website, the Connecticut Council of Municipalities, which is a great resource to all local governments, has provided a toolkit. It's about a 29-page document that really helps everybody work through the process. And one of the things that they say is not necessarily required, but strongly encouraged is to get the community feedback. We've already heard some towns are just making decisions unilaterally and not really doing that. But so we've already sort of checked that box, but there will be many more opportunities for community input along the way. The other component of this that gets a little bit tricky is that there's an audit piece of this. A single audit would cover how these funds are spent. However, it would be optimal that we have some idea of where we might want to spend these funds in October. It doesn't mean we have to pull the trigger on them, but that we would have some idea so that the auditors can plan for that and also put some tests to that process. In other words, if we say that we lost revenue in parking, they could then go back and validate that in fact we did lose all this revenue in parking. The good news is that what I'm hearing from the town leaders is they're being very optimistic about, this is really a great chance for us to do some things or bring some things to town that we might not have been able to do otherwise. So again, the way it seems like it's going to work is the Board of Finance is really going to be tasked with coming up with any governmental ideas of how the fund should be spent. The town council will ultimately, it does seem that it's going to be a legislative action in terms of the end result of who decides. But the Board of Selectmen is going to take in comments as well. The real question, and it's a real valid one, and I'm going to work with Kevin tomorrow on this, is the Board of Finance assigned 2 or 3 folks from that board to work on this. The town council's done the same. We're going to suggest that they all work together rather than have it be redundant as one committee that will then be responsible for gathering input, checking to make sure that they're valid requests, and then making some recommendations to the Board of Selectmen and hence the other town bodies. But we have a real opportunity as in the TDAC here. One of the things that was mentioned right off the bat was that we need a lot more money devoted to economic development in town, which obviously is key for all of us. So what I thought we would do is, Laura, you obviously were at the meeting, and I think Greg, I can't remember who else was there because it was by Zoom, but anybody else?
BJ was there.
Right. So anything else, Rita, right? Anything else that I missed in terms of some of the highlights of the meeting that you want to touch on?
May I ask just a general question before you kick off? I wasn't at the meeting, but is it your understanding that the direction is to do smaller parcels to a greater number of entities, or larger, more meaningful parcels to smaller?
There's really no idea, no definitive answer on that yet. Kevin and I were talking about after the forum, and each of us, sort of figured out that we heard about $15,000 worth of recommendations the other night. That didn't include anything to do with the Playhouse. Playhouse is another sort of area all in and of itself. So, BJ, did you have something, and Rita?
I kind of felt like it was partially representative. Like we went over a number of things that I thought were great. EV, the Playhouse, a couple of other things. But I really got that feeling like, oh, there's this whole other component that's not being addressed. But it was great to hear from that group. My concern
was missing the local bit. There was almost zero interest from the local community.
That is correct.
The local business community.
Yeah, that's correct. And I think the concern I have is that it'll all go to things that are very valid, but are things like parking, to shore up funds that duly noted should be, but they won't help us from an economical development standpoint. And I think that was my biggest concern.
Yeah, the only opportunity in terms of eligibility for funds, the only area where you can actually look back is when it's lost revenue. Now, while our parking revenue was way down, as was Parks and Rec because they had no programs, we have many other areas that became over. There were surpluses. Our conveyance fees are way over where they were. So when you look at the whole budget in total, we're actually in pretty decent shape. But you could make the argument, and the auditors would accept this, that the parking department revenue was way down. I'm not seeing a lot of sentiment for that right now, just filling the hole. I do think people are looking at this as something forward, something that would enhance what's already going on here and not just have it be a Band-Aid or just to fill the gap, if you will, to stimulate more economic development, if you will.
And Rita, your sense that businesses didn't apply because they had gotten federal funds in other ways, or that they didn't know about it, or?
Well, they knew about it.
Yeah.
I think, you know, I got very minimal feedback from the business community. I think it's kind of hard to wrap around. I had 2 business owners come in and ask if they could have some of the money to pay their rent. And I explained that that was not, you know, that was not what the funds were set aside for at all.
That's right.
You know, and that's what the PPP was for, was to, you know, keep businesses open and all that.
That's right.
But, you know, I sent them 2 notices, you know, even the day of, this is tonight, here's the Zoom link, you know, the whole thing. And I think it's just hard to wrap it around, because it's not necessarily a grant request. It's more like, come give us your feedback. I think the nonprofit community is just more set up for that and kind of understood what it was.
Yeah, I agree.
And the
they showed up. They definitely showed up. And I think that what was too bad is that the nonprofits were fantastic about talking about the future and what the goals could be coming out of the pandemic, where the business community did not have that representation. And that kind of bummed me out, because I would have prepared the meeting if I knew it was going to be so underrepresented.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of felt as a chamber, I was there, and, you know, one of our things is to revitalize that playhouse. I mean, that will help every business on Elm, Main, Forest, people, you know, keeping people in town, dining afterwards, shopping afterwards, going to get an ice cream, you know, all that sort of stuff. So in terms of something that can globally help the entire district, that's something that we feel very strongly. I don't know if it'll come through, but that's what we feel would give a great shot in the arm for all our businesses.
Rita, you've been waiting with your...
No, it's okay. I wasn't sure how this is going, if we're raising hands or just talking, but I share BJ's concern that not everyone may be represented, and maybe, you know, we only heard from a certain portion. So that I don't know how this was sort of advertised. So I'd be curious to know if, you know, if we really reached everyone. That'd be one concern. So I share that, but it sounds like a lot of people did know about it. The second thing is, I'm wondering, how is there a certain criteria that we are then judging all of these things against? Like my approach is very consultative. And if I were going to try to judge one, you know, ask versus another, for me, I would literally list across the top kind of criteria of what makes a good, sort of a good ask. And then I would, you know, along the left-hand side, I'd put all of the asks, and then on the top, I would kind of list the criteria that we're looking for. And I would kind of give them a high grade or a low grade, you know, based on each of the criteria. And that's the way I look at things. It's very like,
and you're way ahead of us.
And so I'm just curious if we're like, what is the, and yeah, maybe we haven't figured this out. Right. But I'm curious, because I feel like there's so many different ways we could judge all of these things. Is there sort of like, are we going to kind of agree on a kind of a list of criteria that makes sense?
For example, when Laura and I went up to Richfield a couple months ago to meet with a person who's part of the Economic Development Commission up there, she told us that they were really lobbying for a flat 3% to be applied to arts and culture, right? Whereas if you look at that CCM toolkit, they're saying 1%, but Richfield felt that it was very important to up that to 3%. So you are way ahead of us in terms of that's back to the process. And I just want to be really clear on this one. This forum was just the beginning of the process. The town council will have a public hearing. There'll be a lot more to come on this. So if somebody didn't attend one or missed out on something, it does not mean that we are we were just one meeting in, that's it.
Yeah.
But the town council did speak about this at length last night. And they are also, as I said, going to have 2 or 3 of their members meet with 2 or 3 of the Board of Finance members to put together. And, you know, Rita, I might ask them to speak with you in terms of what the structure is going to be on deciding where these funds are used and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so. I'd be happy to. I kind of approach these things in a very methodical way.
Right.
And it's also, it becomes very transparent, because what I worry about is people say, oh, you know, they got it because they're friends with so-and-so.
Right.
And they got it because whatever. But if we say, hey, this is the process that we chose, this is the criteria, this is how we rank them, and this is why we did what we did, it feels much more, you know, like you have a rationale, it's much more transparent. And I don't know.
I like the way that
to get everyone on board.
Lauren Patterson identified the 4 kind of key areas, which I agree with Rita that establishing criteria just generally, you know, does it promote New Canaan's vitality?
Right.
You know, or whatever the criteria is in each of these, each of these categories. But she had, you probably all read this, arts and culture, health, workforce, economic development, and sustainability. So the 4 kind of key umbrella. But you could have the criteria apply to all 4 of those categories.
And those categories really came out of what she heard. She then broke them into categories. These weren't categories that were preset. These were themes that she heard after speaking with everybody. Jack, you've had your hand raised so patiently, but now you're muted.
There. So first of all, you know, I thought what Laura said about the movie theater, I agree with. And, you know, what Rita was saying is that the reasons why that is so intriguing is maybe some of the reasons we would have in criteria. I think that we should discuss that here about what that list should be. Because I think our concern, although I thought all of the suggestions in the email you sent, Tucker, I thought they were all valid. But our discussion here should be about economic development and tourism. And I think, and I could be wrong, but that's what I feel. And then, yeah, a list of criteria to our ideas and to see what floats to the top.
Yeah. There's going to be more to come on this. And we'll all have a chance to participate in that process. So I agree with anything. It's just what I heard last night from the town council and from the Board of Finance is there's got to be a group that takes the lead on this, right? Or a couple of people. And so we can offer all of our input. We were asked if TDAC should run with it. And quite honestly, with the work streams, the work that we've got cut out for us over the fall, I opted for us not to be the body. I didn't think it was even appropriate necessarily because we're so focused on one thing.
Can we add suggestions? I mean, that's what
sure.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, this is just the beginning.
And when does that happen? I have a suggestion, so that's why.
Anytime. I mean, you're welcome to email them to me or to Lauren or to Laura. I mean, Lauren was the one collecting them. She's about to go off on maternity leave. But I would venture to guess that within the next week, we will have a true process set up with literally an email address to send them to, and more meetings will happen where the public will be invited to have a full conversation about where these funds will go.
Can I ask Laura a question?
Yes.
I'm sorry if you're done. I'm sorry if you're done, John.
I am done. Thank
you. So you mentioned the PPP, and I know that different businesses had different levels of success getting PPP. So when you say, well, that's what that was for, I know that some people had trouble even getting like through their bank to even like request funds. So I'm just curious if that's like across the board, like, oh yeah, they've been taken care of. Have they really been?
I mean, a lot of the businesses I've talked to were very successful. And I can say the experience, the Chamber of Commerce's were not entitled to PPP until the third round because chambers are viewed and were viewed by Congress and in many ways correctly as lobbyist organizations. So you had to show you weren't. And so I was lucky when we did apply because our revenue was so far down with so many events canceled and membership not able to be paid. It was a super simple process. And I think the people that started the first round, I think especially the first weeks of the first round, the banks weren't ready. It was a lot of confusion. But I would say by the second round and certainly by the third round, the experience was pretty streamlined. I'm not saying it was perfect, and I think it sort of depends who you went with. And I think the banks learned what they could and could not handle. On the third round, I went to Bankwell, and they had already partnered with a large lending organization, I can't remember the name now, out in New Jersey. And there was this online platform, and you punched in all the numbers and uploaded and all this sort of stuff. So, you know, the businesses kept that pretty tight to the vest. But most of the ones that I spoke to were able to be successful. The SBA was awesome. We offered multiple webinars with our local SBA rep, Christine Sullivan. And, you know, I think, you know, so I'm not saying everyone had a perfect experience, but I think a lot of them did.
Good. I just want to make sure they're taking care of us. That's good. Great.
Yeah.
So now.
Yeah.
And being forgiven. Like I just spoke to a business the other day whose first round of PPP's been forgiven, and she's working with her accountant, and they're pretty confident her second round will be forgiven.
Thank you.
Sure. So again, let's just, even though we don't have a scheduled meeting in August, I see a kitty cat running across Nancy.
It's mine. Sorry.
That's right. I see this tail going across the screen.
Rosie wants to be on camera.
Oh, Rosie. We will definitely, I will definitely keep you all posted when I find out exactly what the process is going to look like and who is going to be part of that process or that committee. And I'll let you know. That's definitely going to be decided, I think, in the next week or so. But keep the ideas coming, write them down, flesh them out, and I'm sure we'll hear more. I mean, it would be very simple just to put the money towards a couple of things, but I think we can find a lot of uses for this and make some impact.
Tucker, maybe when the process has started and there's a forum, and as you said, you know, someone specifically to reach out to, maybe as a committee, we can come up with a, you know, an ask or a list of priorities or something.
Recommendations, yeah.
Recommendations that we see from an economic development perspective. So we're sort of speaking with one voice and kind of hash out some different ideas once we understand the process.
Definitely. Brock, who couldn't be here tonight, did send me a long email about where he thought if he were having to decide tonight. And he really, well, at first he thought it should go towards, I don't know what he really meant by this, because he really wanted to acknowledge the work of Health and Human Services and the police department and DPW and all of that. I don't think if he necessarily thought funds should go there, but he thought they should be acknowledged. But he also said that he really wanted to support the library, the Playhouse, and the parking fund. He said, I think the New Canaan Library and Playhouse will serve as important pieces of a vibrant downtown of the future, and funds should be allocated to support their causes. Lastly, funds should be also routed to support the efforts to install a parking garage in the Park Street lot behind Town Hall, Locust Avenue lot, or wherever it makes the most sense. So that's just, you know, that's just his opinion, and we'll collect them all and go from there. Let me just get back to the agenda here. So I guess the point on that one is just, let's stay tuned. Good problem to have. And I loved when I heard both the town council and Board of Finance suggest that more money be devoted to marketing for the town. That's certainly a good sign.
So can I raise my hand on that one?
Yeah.
Because, and this isn't, I mean, I don't know where, you know, what category this goes into, but and I mentioned some thoughts to you at some point, maybe in passing before I was officially on. But the marketing part of it, like just in today's world with, you know, digital and all of that, and people have so many things coming at them. I think if we invested in a strategy, not just existing, but really a specific strategy to drive folks, to drive awareness around exactly what types of business we have, how to park, all the good stuff that are, you know, like the challenges of our small town, and driving awareness and driving people to our town, I think, and like specifically driving people to our town, it would be a huge return on investment. And that's not something that it's, you know, it's not a business. It's not an idea that someone proposed. Like it's basically, it's a marketing presentation. So that it's kind of a different.
And
I don't know how you like put that in there.
Yeah. So walk me through that. If, if somebody gave you a blank check and said, this is what we'd like to do, would you start with a marketing company? Sorry, airplane.
We would need, yes, we would have to have an agency to kind of develop. I don't know how to, I know what we need to do, but I don't know how to execute it. So I know how to manage an agency to be able to do it. I know what our objectives should be. I know how, what the outcome should be, but I don't know how to actually do it. So we would have to hire an outside agency. And actually we would probably have them present some ideas. Right. And that's free, by the way. You could go to a couple of agencies and say, hey, this is what we're trying to accomplish. How would you do it? They would come back with some proposals and there would be a price tag with that. And hopefully along with that, we would be able to say, this would equate to a return on investment of whatever. I mean, then that gets a little soft and a little squishy, but I think we're behind the times, right? And I also think a lot of towns are behind the times, but I think we could be at the forefront of using digital to, drive the economic development of our town. We could literally be a leader, which would be pretty cool.
Yep.
And just to feed off what Rita's saying is, I think that, from a marketing perspective, we've already had a head start. We have Live New Canaan, which has been effective and has been a great driver in the real estate community. And I think that when we're developing these ideas, there's a couple of the actual streams we're working on that will actually feed that idea.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, you're
not starting from scratch. You're basically building on what we've already done and making it even that much stronger.
Yeah. And I think that, as far as the stream that we're working on, the idea that we're meeting prospective businesses that are coming into town, we have such an incredible opportunity. We have Lynn in our group. We have Dan Mulhern and Brock Sachs. And these are all people who have worked on different parts of commercial real estate, retail, medical, and office. And the ability to attract all of them will feed in such a positive way to residential. So, all good for sure.
So, Rita, you mentioned, marketing to individuals to come to town. I also think we could partner or piggyback that with how to get businesses to come to town.
Exactly. And, yeah. There are two parts.
And one thing that I was thinking is, if you want IBM to come and open up an office in your town, you give them some grant money. And this would be kind of an interesting idea to think about offering grants to new businesses to come here. And they would come here and present, and just the most exciting businesses would get money. And that would be something to promote. We make a list of what we need, get people to make grant proposals and to come in, offer them a free year's rent. I think that we have a lot of stores that are empty. It's not a fully formed idea, but I think that we have to get this message to the business community, what we offer here to fill our town and kick off a stronger economic development.
Another good idea. And I think, Jack, you hit on something very interesting, is that uniquely, we have businesses coming to our town all the time with their idea. And we need to marry that with what we are missing. What's the gap? Right. What are we missing? So, forming a process, which is what Rita's talking about, the criteria, will give us the ability to mesh those two things. So, you can't beat that. You really cannot beat that. I think one thing we were talking about in our committee was the idea that the residential brokers need to better understand what we're up against with the commercial real estate, so that they understand that they need to be big cheerleaders for us. And if they come upon an opportunity where someone's moving into town and has the hopes of starting a business in town, they are properly educated to how to push them in the right direction. So we're hoping that our stream will support them too. One
thing that has come up again that you had brought up way back when we first started TDAC, and it came up when we had this brokers meeting not too long ago, was the need for some sort of a listing, an MLS, if you will, of commercial spaces and who's the agent for them and that kind of thing. And I know you've said there's LoopNet, but it seems, I've heard this now a number of times, that it seems to me that our brokers here, that it's much more of a tight knit, that it's not really rises to the level of like an MLS, that I've been asked a couple of times, is there anywhere where there's a listing that says Jack Trafera represents the, 127 Main Street and John Engel represents this Elm Street? I mean, we don't have that. And I don't know where that would even live or how that would even be put together, but it's been asked of me now a couple of times and I'm not quite sure what the answer is.
Well, on the MLS, I mean, the rentals are there
for the commercial.
But it's not really specifically a commercial site where you would tend to go. So yeah, I see what you're saying.
So if someone came to you tomorrow and said, I'm thinking of opening up a cigar shop in New Canaan, you would just know, because everybody who owns and who does what, you would start saying, oh, I know, I'm going to call the Francos because I know they own this building, or because you know that. But at our broker meeting, we had several brokers that weren't really as intimately connected to New Canaan as you were. And I'm afraid that maybe we are missing some opportunities on that because they don't know who to ask. Maybe they do know someone in Darien, so they're directing their client maybe to Darien or to another town. And I wonder, that doesn't seem like a big job to maintain that kind of a database, but I just don't know if it's really as worthwhile as I've heard it could be.
Well, certainly not everything is listed. I don't know why, but I would go to rentals, and in the rental area, you'll see buildings that are for rent, but it's not a specific, it's rentals of houses and rentals of businesses. There's nothing isolated. Yeah. So it is.
Would you find a general listing of all the commercial properties in New Canaan by address helpful with the agent who represents them?
Well, and also, I think it's more how real estate is done today. It's really the client is out there fishing on the internet first, trying to figure out what's out there.
Right.
And so LoopNet is a free service, so they'll start there, and I think a lot of them do. And but it's not a perfect system. You're absolutely correct.
And you're not finding buildings like ours, where we had 3 openings and, they keep it close to the vest. It's a private held business and,
that's by their choice. They don't want to be out there. Is it because they don't want to work with a broker and they don't want to pay the fee, or they just want to rent it?
Yeah, because there's a fee to pay.
They want to maintain that higher level. Yeah. So they stay outside the system because they want to maintain a higher rate.
So again, if somebody is thinking of opening up a business in New Canaan, what you're saying is the client, that I might be really doing my homework and come to you eventually, Jack, and say, I'm interested in 127 Main Street. And then I find you first before you found me. Right. Okay.
Yeah, I do. And I think an entrepreneur is going to come in and if they're very excited about their idea, they will shake the bush until they find what they're, they'll figure it out. And I think they can see generally everything. They may miss something, but if they're motivated, they can get that information. I don't think it's the best system. I'm not saying.
I thought that the New Rochelle's, if you want to open a business brochure, was so beautifully laid out, and it really brought everything together. You want to open a business in town. Do you think people access, is that web-based and available? Do you think if you were opening a business or were thinking of opening a business in New Rochelle, would you go to the town website and find it?
That's where it lives.
Yeah.
I would hope that real estate brokers would also have it.
Yeah, and we're going to use that as a bellwether to how we're creating what we're doing. So I think that that's going to be exciting. But, I think the thing that we have to think of is we have to to, as I mentioned, we have to not only inform the people who are coming in that have interesting business ideas, but we also have to inform our, our residential brokers, because they hear things, and they're, that's a good place to make sure they're aware of the steps that are needed.
I just had an idea, where so somebody's walking through town and they're looking at space, but you want to tell them more about the town, and we've done work with this, and maybe we'll do more work with this and internet things. And I'm embarrassed because I don't know what it's really called. We use them at my company, that little circle you put your camera on.
The QR code.
QR code.
Sorry.
Awesome. What a great idea.
But you would, why not? With we hang ours up on the front of a building. We could ask the landlords, and we could ask the agents, would you please put this up and just say, want to learn more about town? And that's the client you're looking for, that's looking at that
So the
space.
QR code is not really to take them to Jack Trefero's broker page. It's to take them to more information about the town, or this
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we use them.
Everything.
There is a broker page that I use, and I stick on a window that brings them to a more detailed information about the listing. But why not right next to that, you just say, we make up little signs. That's all they are. It just says, if you want more information about town, or however you want to present it, and they just have that right next to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think they would use that.
I wish we could sell in more of the windows. Yeah. We're trying to crack some of these landlords, because we could certainly incorporate those QR codes on the designs.
Exactly.
That with a little, learn more here, because it's true. There probably are a lot of people who shop the town just the way residential buyers do before they even approach a broker, and walk around and look at space and look at the the adjacent stores and the traffic and the parking and all that. So
in the stories we tell. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying, I think it's a great idea, John, that for like low-hanging fruit, or Jack. But I also like your idea about meeting them halfway. So not only are we, if they happen to be in town and they're looking, which is we have to capture those people for sure. I mean, we're stupid if we're not capturing those people who want to already. But I like your idea of meeting them where they are, which is the people who you wouldn't even have thought of coming to look. Like, how do we kind of reach those folks? And I also think we can be selective. Once we, with the market demand study, we figure out who we want to be here. Exactly. I think we should be actively reaching out and recruiting the types of businesses that we want in our town.
Yeah, I do that. Agents do that. I think, here's an empty space. How do we fill it? What are we missing? But so there's things that we can do to incentivize people to come. And part of it, they're always concerned about the price and things like that. Not to talk about my business, but we did convince landlords to reduce the first year's rent and make it as easy as possible for people to come. And we rented the space, and it was based on that introduction price.
Well, you know what else I would do? So as a business owner, I'd also be concerned about being able to, keep the lights on, right? So is there some sort of like, how many people do I need to walk in? Like, there's got to be some sort of like calculation you could do. We do this. I work with customers. I work with franchisees to figure out, like, they literally have, it's like a calculator thing where you input, okay, I need to get, like, these are my costs. This is rent, whatever. How many people do I need to walk through that door to break even? How many people do I need to walk through that door to make this worthwhile? And we could create that and say, hey, our whole idea is trying to drive people into your store. Like, this is how many people we think you can be able to like get through your doors. And it's a way to like overcome their trepidation of opening up, because it's a big deal. I mean, even if you give them a break in the first year, that doesn't mean they're going to be able to make it in the second year. Like, we want to give them an idea of how much traffic they can have in order to be successful and overcome that fear. Sorry.
And I think that what I want to stress is that we're New Canaan, we're not Norwalk. So some of the things that we our exclusivity and our selectiveness, which you brought up, the ability to choose the ones that we feel we really need in a certain block. Mm-hmm. Those are all things that are extremely important to our homeowners and, you know, the people who we're
serving the community.
Ultimately serving. And I don't want this to think that we're going to give massive grants, and we don't have the ability to give them tax breaks or rental breaks. That's not in our purview.
Legally, you can't even do tax.
No, purview, you can't do that. And but what behooves us best is the idea of exclusivity and what makes us so incredibly special.
Mm-hmm. And the high net worth audience that we have here. Hello.
Like, so, right. So this whole discussion is a perfect segue to our 4 work streams. Okay. Because a lot of what you've all talked about is exactly what we need to do, rather than the whole group be hearing all these ideas. And, you know, we need everyone to put pen to paper and really start getting into some of this. So I sent out the 4, and we had all decided which sort of our theme should be at the last meeting. So the business development guide, which is what Amanda just talked about, you all have the link to it from the one in New Rochelle. We've got Brock, BJ, Amanda, Dan, and Laura working on that. My hope for all of these groups is that over the next 4 weeks or so, you all will meet. You don't have to meet via Zoom. You can, and I'll go through some of the notice requirements and that kind of thing in a minute so that no one's worried about Freedom of Information Act. But so that's the first group. The second is the market demand study. And I had Sue Schweitzer, Jack, and Rita working on that one. Again, that's the market demand study that we did back in 2011, I believe. And I just think it really needs a dusting off, reading it, seeing what still applies, what's relevant. That shouldn't take too much time. I really think that we could look at some of those findings then and apply them now. The retail broker meetings is just more of what we already did. That one meeting we had with the brokers was fabulous. We promised them that we'd have more. So we've got the group that's going to follow up with that. And then the last group is this tourism visitor traffic opportunities. There's so many opportunities now. And Nancy's going to talk a little bit about October for Design and all the things that are happening between now and even the end of the year that we can take advantage. So that's Susan, Jack, Nancy, Greg, and John Matz. So what we have to do is, even when you break out into a small meeting, there still has to be a notice of the meeting for the public to join if they want to. The new executive orders through April 30th say that you have to, if you meet by Zoom, you have to put the Zoom link out there, obviously, so that the public can join and that kind of thing. So I'd also asked a few of you to be the point people. I didn't assign leaders per se, but these were people that I thought could handle getting it organized, just getting everyone off go, if you will. So is everybody okay with the groups that they're assigned to? Most of you self-selected, but I did put a few people in here and there that I thought I could count on. But if everyone's good, I haven't heard back from anybody, so I assume everybody's good. So what I'd like you to do is, at the very least, is just set the first date to sit down, and you can have some of these meetings, and then you can really go off individually and do some more research. I mean, Rita, you're talking about some great ideas that you could spend some time working on, and you can email ideas and suggestions. You just can't have a dialogue, because that is, you know, if you want to send, hey, I just found this great link, look at this, that's fine. Someone else can't say, oh, you know what, maybe we should do this, because now you're having a meeting. It's one thing if you're disseminating information, but then you're having a meeting, and that's where we get into trouble. So all you would have to do really in that front is just make sure that you say a date and a time of when you're meeting, and you do it by Zoom, and you just allow the public to be there if they want.
Will you make sure you know? Is that the process?
It's supposed to let me know, and I can help you with all of the postings. And by the way, that is not a big document. All you have to say is who, what, when, where, how, right? The business development guide subcommittee of TDAC is meeting on July 27th at 7 p.m. and here's our Zoom link. And I can provide any Zoom links if anybody needs them.
Wait, where do we post that? Where do we do that?
So you would post it. There's 3 places it has to get posted. I'll send out the instructions. Okay. It's basically 3 email addresses in Town Hall that they have to go to. One is the town clerk's records. One is to IT because they are the ones that then put it up on the website. And then the other is to Pam Flynn, and she just keeps track of everything.
Okay.
Okay.
And then do we have to post minutes from the meeting?
And the minutes don't or should not be he said, she said. The minutes should be Laura, Tucker, and Greg were there. They talked about this. They started the meeting at this time. They approved minutes. They talked about these topics. They adjourned at 7:45. Done. Okay. That's all it has to.
Tucker, the group I'm in, the how to start a business manual, we need to really work with Lynn more than anyone in planning and zoning.
Right. So Lynn was the one that actually made, this document. She brought this to my attention. I didn't even know.
Is that the same group I'm in with you, Laura?
Yes.
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 Okay, because I met with, or talked to Brock on the phone.
Yes.
Okay.
And we went down like an entire list of things of who would work on what.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Laura's point about working with Lynn is a good one. Lynn is very busy, our town planner. So what I would do is maybe get together first, figure out, where you're going with it, what areas you need Lynn's help with, and then set up some time to sit with Lynn. She was the one who said we need to do this and showed me the example. Okay. So she
I think we might be a little bit farther along in that we like wrote down all the things that we could picture, and then who in our committee could do what. Obviously, Laura, you're all about the chamber and how to entice these people, and so we just kind of went down and who does what.
Okay.
So I'll circle back with you, Laura, but we'll make sure that we
and also keep in mind that we have now started a new fiscal year, so we are back. While we don't have a dedicated budget, TDAC doesn't have a dedicated budget. There is $30,000 in the budget that's in the first selectman's budget that is focused on economic development. So along the way, if you come up with an idea or something that has some money associated with it, just note what that is. Get a quote or tell us what.
Yeah, because we'll probably go printing and digital, so we'll make sure you know what's happening.
All right, Nancy.
Sorry, Eric has been texting me. He's trying to get in. He didn't get a Zoom link, and I forwarded him the agenda, and he says he can't get in.
It's on the.
Send them to newcanaan.info and the meeting pops up.
On the calendar, it's right there, and the link is right there. I don't see, he's not at, no one's asking to come in.
No, he says he didn't get a link.
Okay, so if he goes to newcanaan.info on the right-hand side, he'll see Tourism and Economic Development Advisory Committee, and it says agenda, and then the link is right there. It's on the right-hand side. Did I send him, was I supposed to send him the link?
I thought you were, but that's okay.
Oh dear, sorry about that. Okay, so he'll come on. So, all right, now, since we've skipped around, so Eric's going to join us in a few minutes. So is everyone good with this? Everyone thinks that we can work on this over the next 4 weeks or so?
Yeah, can I ask a question, Tucker, though?
Sure.
So where would this whole marketing thing go? Where would that lie? In
the market demand study?
No,
marketing,
like that, being able, like as an idea. Where would that go?
That's more of a, well, I would think that would fall into the sort of tourism visitor traffic opportunities. I mean, not just in terms of marketing the town in general, but it's really
an investment. That's the thing. So I don't know if that
yeah,
get some of those funds. How would that work?
Oh, how in terms of, we would make a proposal, we would make a recommendation of what we wanted to spend. We've been doing this for a year. We've spent the funds on several different initiatives so far, but we're now back to square one. So we would just make a recommendation and the Board of Selectmen would approve it.
Okay.
And if it's under $10,000, we don't even have to go through the route of Board of Selectmen. Kevin can authorize anything under $10,000. So, and we might get more. I mean, we might want to, the other thing I think collectively as a group, we'll want to be thinking about making a bigger push for more funds from the ARPA funds for economic development.
Thanks.
Thank you. You able to get that to him, Nancy?
I'm trying. I'm not getting a response now, so I don't know if he gave up.
Okay. All right, I'll wait to see if I can find him. On old business, I have a whole list of things that I wanted to go over on old business. And And I also want to, I like it when we go around the room and talk about all the different things that we're all working on. So just to bring you all up to speed, Kevin has decided, or actually folks in the HR department decided that the town really needed to do a better job with the social media and the website and all of the Twitter, even LinkedIn. We have 16 followers in LinkedIn through the town. We're told that LinkedIn is, I know, it's embarrassing, right? 16. So he brought in the folks that are doing Live New Canaan and sat them down and had a fabulous meeting. And they are going to help us set up an entire communications schedule and really work very similar to how Live New Canaan, where there's going to be a lot of photos and content and that kind of thing generated and a whole schedule set up. It's going to train all of the department heads. So so that's a really good sign. And that won't have really sort of a really positive meeting that we had. And I'm excited about that. We also, I met with Cole, Greg and I met with Cole Akers. Greg, you want to just quickly wrap up what we did with them and where we're going and how we're going to invite them to come and join TDAC?
Yeah, Cole Akers is a senior curator at the Glass House, and he's been in contact over time with the town of Columbus, Indiana, which is another mecca of mid-century modern architecture. And they actually have a thriving model for visitation and experiencing what they have to offer. So Cole's going to set up a meeting for them to appear before TDAC and discuss, discuss how they went about it and, you know, what's working for them and what's not working for them. And yes, we're a decidedly different town than Columbus, Indiana. So we will, you know, then use our judgment about what we can, how we can benefit from their experience.
Yeah, he's actually, I loved meeting him. Got a lot of good ideas.
Yeah.
Nancy, were you able to ever catch up with David Peter? Where'd Nancy go?
I'm here.
Oh, were you able to catch up with David Peterson at all?
I did. I talked to him and Victoria Pettit, who I think is his chief operating officer now for Oanera. And I told him sort of what was planned for the fall, asked him if he wanted to be involved, told him that I talked to him about 3 weeks ago, told him that it'd be great to hear from him before TDAC, and I have not heard, so I don't know.
Okay, so you did that by email, or you talked
No, we had a Zoom call.
Oh, you did have a Zoom call?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Laura, and there he is, Eric. Sorry about that.
No problem.
You've been trying to get in.
Quite all right.
So, Rita, you might be the only one that's not familiar with Eric Feinstein with Autocast, but Eric has worked with us now for a year. Eric, why don't you just take us through where we've started and where we are and where we're going and what you need from us?
Okay. Well, hi, everybody. Where it started, I guess, was with the sculpture walk.
Right.
And this, yeah. And so I'm Eric Feinstein, and I own a mobile app platform that's called Autocast. And Autocast, basically, at its simplest, it's a collection of audio guides for various things. Art was the way we got into New Canaan, but it's being used all over the place for historic sites and architecture. Actually, we just did a guide for Seaside, Florida, which is the new urbanist movement, which was neat. And I just did a guide for historic trees in Columbia.
I'm sorry, is it auto,
It's O-T-O. The Greek root for hearing is in sound is oto, like otology. But I just did a guide for historic trees in Columbia, Missouri, which was kind of interesting as well. So we're doing all kinds of things. And so launching from the sculpture walk that we did, met Tucker, I guess, literally on the trail at one point, and that led to some discussions here to how can we get people more interested in various cultural sites and activities in and around New Canaan. So we initially talked about a couple of locations, the Glass House and the History Museum. And so we started to put that together, and then, you know, life happened and things didn't move as quickly. So in recent reconnecting of me kind of saying, hey, whatever happened to somebody providing an audio for the farm or something? It was sort of a reintroduction to come here so we could remind people what we have, where we are, and again, as Tucker said, where we want to go. I mean, the goal is to include more sites so that we can, get people engaged, whether they're local or not. But again, at the highest level, it's a map with various pins. The pins represent various points of interest, and that point of interest has a name, some sort of text, some collection of photos, and audio at its simplest. At a higher level, we can do lots of other things. For instance, something we're doing in Minnesota right now is visit any, in their case, 20, visit any 20 locations and you win a prize pack. Or in Kansas City, it's visit any 3 locations and you win an entry into our end of year drawing for a $250 gift card. So there's lots of different ways you can do things like that. We've also added features since we first started speaking, where we can now set a radius around any given point of interest, so that as you get close to that radius, it says you're very close to the glass house. And then B, we can set a secondary radius that automatically plays the associated audio for that spot without you having to manually press play. So that's another feature that we've added. So with that, as an example, we're doing a Christmas holiday lights tour through a sculpture park in Ohio. So yeah, they're going to have different pockets of Christmas music to basically create an ambiance as you drive through. And the other nice thing is it's nighttime, you're driving through, you're not having to futz with your phone to press play, which I think is probably safer. So we also added some features for some more indoor guidance using Bluetooth technology. So we're now doing a guide for an aquarium up in Canada with Bluetooth, and soon for a historic museum down in, to pronounce it correctly, Nocona, Texas, which has 5 rooms or something, a smallish museum, but we're going to put things there. And very similar to the functionality I just mentioned, as you get close to that, within proximity of that Bluetooth transmitter, that will trigger the automatic playing of audio for you. And in the case of the aquarium, they actually have it such that the content itself is not even available until you get to it. So in essence, they've created a paywall. So from here, any of you or I can look at the aquarium and we can see the welcome message and play the welcome video and all that, but we can't do anything about the touch tank until we're there to ensure we pay. So lots of new features that we've added since, again, we first started talking. And I'm just going to bring up the guide so I can see where we are. But we've been, at the initial dates, we were batting around lots of ideas and bringing on different organizations. At the moment, the guide itself consists of, again, Grace Farms, but we have no audio, the New Canaan Museum, where we do have audio and pictures and so forth, and the Glass House, which has some audio, but I heard it was only sort of a placeholder, but no other places other than that at the moment. So the idea was to kind of expand it. So
can I just ask a question? Eric, this is the idea, is like, it's kind of like an audio tour. So in lieu of like someone handing you those things that you put on your ear and the numbers that you press,
exactly,
that's what it is. So it's your own like self-guided.
But it's your own phone, your own pace, your own germs.
You can do it over a week. I mean, you can do it over a month.
You can do 1, you can do 10, you can do none. Yeah, well,
really
none isn't
Eric,
effective.
Is there any way you could share your screen so people could actually see it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me give them.
Yeah, let me share screen. Thank you.
It's an app you can download, Rita.
That is correct.
No, I know. I looked it up actually.
Okay,
I was just curious about how it worked, and it's interesting. Yeah.
It is a free app for download for Apple and Android devices.
I'm one of those audio people. I always get the audio tour.
I actually worked for a while for a company that provided that, so it was an interesting mix. And soon we will be offering it as a website as well, as long as you're not trying to utilize functionality that is really very app specific. But it'll be nice for people who perhaps are app phobic or app fatigued or something like that. So let me get to here, and I should be, let's see. Okay, do you see my phone? Maybe not yet. Okay, great. And so this should zoom in just a second. So this is, I could back it up even one more. So let me swipe that off and let me start up the app again. What you're seeing on the screen is reflecting off my phone, and it's got an incredible lag to it. So I'm just waiting for the app to restart. And because on my phone, oh, there you go. So now it's restarting. I'm quickly going to go to the top of the screen And just, so by default, what it'll do is it searches for things that are close to you.
Yeah.
But in my case, I'm just searching for Canaan because it's not as close. So we have the sculpture trail there still, and we have this, and we'll be doing the sculpture trail again for the next go around. When I open up the guide, what it'll do is it'll show me the map at the top, zoom in a bit, and show me the locations that we have in there. And I can spread them apart with my fingers because it's just a Google map here as it brings in all the information. And then at the bottom, you can see the 4 points of interest. One, the general welcome message, for which we also need an audio. That's why you can see at the bottom, it's only a 2-second audio at this point because there's nothing there. But if I were to tap at the first pin, we'll zoom to Grace Farms in a moment, where you can see, hang on a second, that's going to zoom because my phone's already done it. So I'm just waiting for it to catch up. Here we go. We're about to whoosh over. Well, whoosh in a certain sense. So you can see Grace Farms. I've tapped it. If I tap the thumbnail image or if I tap the tab, it'll bring me to some text information, which has their mission statement and a link to their website. The second tab over is photos. If I tap that, we can see any number of photos. I think there's about 12 here that I can start to just use my thumb and slide to get a better, sense of what's there. And then you can see too, they only have a 6-second audio. So it's really just a placeholder, but let's jump to one that actually does have something. So I'll go to the New Canaan Museum. You can see there's 6 photos here. So I can start to slide through that. But then if I turn my volume up and I press play, let's see.
Welcome to the New Canaan Museum and Historical
Society. You can hear
Society.
that, I'm assuming.
Founded in 1889.
So I'll press pause. And if I press the info on theirs, you can see the mission statement, and then it's taking a little bit of time to load, but we have 2 embedded videos from YouTube that are at the top of that list. There we go. That are at the top there as well. So people can play those videos, get lots of information about it, their hours, their phone number, and so forth. So that's the general construct of this. And then the last one is
cool, but we're just not using it to its full potential. That's the problem.
Correct. And then there's the Glass House, as I mentioned, which also has information, but doesn't have, from what I was told, the official audio, but there are lots of photos because there's lots of cool photos there. But right. The intent, I think, was always to add more than just these 3, just a matter of getting people motivated to do it.
Right.
We have a great voiceover guy in town, and I know I've talked about this before, but maybe each place wants their own audio, but we do have we've got a good, John Walsh, voiceover by Walsh, and I'm sure there are other people, but it would be nice to, if anyone needed audio, I'm sure he'd probably do it with, for some sort of barter credit or something.
Well, I think one of the things that we also need to do is, think about all the different organizations or destinations that should be part of this, and then reach out to them. I mean, we know about it, but they don't know about it, right? I'm thinking about the library. I'm thinking about Silvermine, Art Guild. I'm thinking about
Nature Center,
Carriage Barn, and all those. But I think it would also be really great to have some restaurants and some stores, so that it seemed like it could be a little bit more of a mixed experience. It's not only a cultural destination.
Right.
Yeah, that is true.
Just think of those stores that could get, the restaurants who could get on there. They'll be the first on there.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it was what, $100 a year? So
I forget what I charged you, but maybe
I'll look back at
$100 or $125. Yeah, something like that per point.
Eric, you haven't charged us. You have to bill us.
Oh yeah, so I guess I haven't charged you. So I guess it's free at the moment.
In terms of like restaurants, is there advertising or
Yeah, I was going to show you a couple of things. So I'm going to jump to Stanford's guide. So any given guide, the pins can be any color. So we could designate the color. If those of you who don't know, Stanford has this summer thing every year. This one's called the Piano Project. So the pins can be any color, and we can designate them for any purpose. So we have a guide I'm doing in Hood River, Oregon, where it's artist studios. So we have like this color represents the painters. This color is the metal workers, the potters, and so forth. This is one way of advertising, whoever asked. This is a splash page. It's just a static image. So you can see what they're doing. But in other places, it's being used for things like special thanks to so-and-so for making this happen and so forth. But sorry for that. That's my son texting me. So this is the Stamford downtown one where you can see two different colors. In their case, the blue represents restaurants. If I tap the top right stacked icon, you can see the blue represents restaurants and the red represents various piano pieces. So this is another way to bring advertisers or sponsors into it. In this case, they get their own complete set. I'm going to move to some of the restaurants. They get their own complete set of text and audio and pictures and stuff like that. So they, maybe if you wanted to charge somebody to be in, they could have a different rate, or they could have like a premiere spot at the beginning where it says this guide brought to you by. There's lots of different options for that. But the thing you could also do is if I didn't want to see the restaurants, I could just toggle them off right now. And now my guide only has the pianos. But we can also put things on a layer that can't be toggled off. So if you have somebody paying a premium, we could, yeah, you never go away, that kind of a thing. So there are definitely options. We built it so that there could be, in essence, different tiers if people wanted to, promote an advertiser, or if you just wanted to include people, that you could just include them.
Such a great app. And I guess what we're struggling with is just how to get people to use it and sign up for it.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons I was reaching out saying, is there any more, even the three that are there, again, not having audio for one of them after so many months.
Right.
Which is part of the reason I frankly didn't charge you. I don't tend to charge till it's done, but after a while, if it's not done because of you, I probably should charge you.
All right. So we need to get you, at the very least, we need to get these three, the audio beefed up for starters, right?
Yeah. And the museum is done. Nancy helped with that.
Could you use this for October for Design?
I was thinking.
Navigate the different groups and at sign in, whenever people sign in, introduce them to the app, and they have, I guess, for privacy, some of these homeowners will not want their addresses on the app, I guess, but
some of the other activities.
But some of the other activities, geographically, it would be great to get this audience that's already committed to the tourism aspect of New Canaan to have this on their phones, and maybe they'll spread the word. Do you think that's asking too much of your audience?
If that question is to me, I don't think that's asking too much.
That's Nancy, actually.
Yeah, okay.
Weigh in.
No, I mean, I think we're going to have so many opportunities for people to check into things that you could have information about it. You could have a, SKU so that they get right on there. And I mean, I don't know. The only problem with like the house tour weekend is that the people that are coming in, it's kind of nonstop and then they leave. Mm-hmm. But I think we're going to have a lot of ways to get this information out. And I also think we could put it on the October for Design website that, log into Oticast and learn about the whole town.
Right.
Tucker, do you think it is TDAC's job to come up with the narrative to introduce Oticast users to New Canaan?
I mean, I guess can't think of anybody else's job it is. So I think by default, it probably is. My question to the Stamford group, Eric.
Yes.
How do those folks learn of Oticast? Not the advertisers, but just the general population.
They actually took out a nice big ad in the papers. Like I know the Danbury News Times had a big ad because my in-laws
promoting it.
Sent it to me. Yeah. They also have they also made some, I haven't been there, but they made some giant banner as well.
They have banners. They change them out.
Yeah. So they had some giant banner. Sorry, my screen sharing thing stopped, but I think I've shown you enough. They had some giant banner, which had a giant QR code. They may have printed some brochures or rack cards or something as well that had the QR code. I don't know for
Have you been able to get any analytics on how many people have been actually using it?
I have. I know I sent one to them recently. Let me bring it up. I know that they were very happy with it. And they actually, last year, which wasn't the piano project, it was a different thing, did really well. So well that they included it in their annual report. And they were talking about how basically the ROI on investing in this was much less than the standard, CPM that they were used to, which was a good thing. But yeah, let me, I am going to bring it up. I know you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm going to bring up the spreadsheet and that I just recently sent to them.
Who is it? The Stamford Downtown Association that's paying for it?
Yes.
And does each individual restaurant, they have to pay for themselves to be on there?
I just told them, if you want me to include the restaurants, we started including the restaurants last year, COVID wise. And I said, I'm happy, just include them. You don't worry about it. So they just paid me one flat fee. I didn't know they had 79 restaurants, but they just included them. But I said, the onus, I'm not going to hunt down audio for those 79 restaurants. I will hunt down the artists, but I'm not going to do that. And to be, completely transparent, of the 79 restaurants, I think we have 4 audio files. And the rest all have a generic, thank you for visiting Stamford Downtown. Please visit our restaurants, that kind of a thing. So whether or not they charge them, or if that's just part of, hey, it's part of the services we're offering you as you being part of our, Stamford Downtown family. I don't know their relationship. I do know that the first time I did something in Stamford, which was the decorated park benches about 6 years ago, I directly got paid by a few restaurants, but we only included like 3 by design, to kind of create an exclusivity. So for those, I charged them and I made sure they had everything. But now they basically just gave me a big file dump of, here's all our restaurants, please put them in. So,
oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I was like, right, I've been working with you for 6 years. So if it helps you, I'm good. So,
Eric, do you have a number of people that are like following you in a certain area? Like, so how do we know, how many people are sort of on your app actively looking for places to see in the area?
There are Google Analytics that are built into the app that keep track of a couple of things. One, how many people have accessed the guide? So I'm trying to see if I have that information here. So for instance, for the piano project, they have, I'm sorry if I'm not looking at you, but there are 24 pianos. And so for every piano they have, like Alley Cat Piano Bar, Blue Cat Piano Club, these are the names of pianos. I can say in this time period, the Alley Cat Piano Bar point of interest was accessed 48 times in the month of June. The piece called Ejected was accessed 123 times, and so forth and so on. Within a certain degree of freedom, I can say here's where they were, because the location that Google Analytics reports back is based off the cell phone tower it hits or possibly a Wi-Fi hub. So depending upon what it says, they may be on the border of 2 towns. So maybe it says Stamford, but maybe it's actually picking up something else. But if it says Chicago, I know that they're nowhere near it. But we can definitely do that. And then graph that out over the time period to say, here's how it was then. So if, for instance, oh yeah, that makes sense. We had a big spike on June 13th, because on the 12th, we had the newspaper article come out, that we can also do a correlation.
So I think, making AutoCast all it can be falls into that work stream of the tourism and visitor traffic opportunity folks. I think that's something that group could work on in terms of reaching out to those other organizations that we thought should be part of it. I mean, again, I know everybody's busy, but you got 5 people on that committee. You could easily, one person could easily take that as their assignment and run with it. Does that seem to make any sense in terms of someone's got to take the lead on this. It's a great opportunity. It's so inexpensive. It has so much capability, so much functionality. It's to me, it's a no-brainer, honestly. Because it's not like we're asking someone to put a ton of money into something, but the return could be really well worth everything.
And I'll make myself available to help with whatever creation is necessary.
Okay.
Well, isn't that can I ask a question? Isn't that the issue really, the ability to create the content? I mean, that in my experience with the building apps and doing the stuff, it's always the creation of the content, where to get it and how to put it in. And so is there a process that we get the content and share it with you and you just upload it? Or?
Yeah. I take that burden away from you. I mean, Nancy can speak to it because we just sort of did this recently. But yeah, I mean, I don't, my basic philosophy is everybody has a day job. They're really busy, but just send me an email or share a shared drive with me. Just tell me where the stuff is and then walk away. We'll take care of the rest.
We have a summer intern who just did our audio. I asked her to write a script and I edited it and she read it. So it's her voice. And she did a few short videos of some museums that I wanted her to feature. And it was, you know, it literally took her less than a day to do all of it. And Eric uploaded it. And I think a lot of us have interns. There's a lot of creative kids that can make a 15-second video without thinking about it. And it's clever. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the idea is to get the visual up there. So, I mean, I'm happy. I can talk to Greg, and for our committee, we can reach out to people. And, you know, I'm also happy Jillian is here for another 3 weeks working for us, and she can help people too, because she's now done it.
So is our scope the arts, or are we also reaching out to restaurants, or is that chamber? Or
yeah, I think you'd have to have some chamber involvement in that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's two different philosophies. One is I just, you know, take the list and, you know, find some intern who will pull copy off of all the restaurants' websites. Because if I go to them and try to ask, you know, I could create a Google form and say, upload this and that, and it's not going to happen. So either, but then do we say, you know, can we use some of our TDAC dollars to pay for their listings? Because if I was trying to get $50, $100 out of each one and the copy and everything else, it's not going to happen. I'll get 3.
Right.
So, you know, I can certainly create a database to do that. We have we have it all in Explore New Canaan. Every restaurant is listed. And I can make sure their websites and all that are in there. So that's a way to grab it. Or I can dump them all in a, in an Excel sheet with their web address.
The other half of this equation, though, is once we've got it all set up, we've got to get people using it.
Right.
Well, that's another thing. I mean, if they come to town, those QR codes that you were talking about, great. If there was a sign or something that people said, you know, this is available, you can get this app, or so on and so forth.
Train station. There should be a QR code at the train station.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Or
I think it could be at the doors.
Starbucks or someplace like that.
I think it could be at the retail doors, where it's like, we participate in AutoCast. And there's a little QR code. So, through the chamber, we could probably promote the concept of, we want to push this through, get your business on it. So
this is a window decal that somebody I know in Canada puts in some of their shops.
I love it. That's good.
Right.
To give you an idea, it's a small little thing. And for those who don't know, in Canada, it's pronounced decal. But apparently that's what they use. So,
Eric, is there
it's like what you did this past year with the downtown doors, during the holiday season time, right? You take those same images and just that becomes because you can change it, right? Eric, once you put the image in, I mean, you can change it seasonally or whatever.
Any content can be changed anytime, if that's what you're asking. Yeah, I'm sorry, Greg, were you saying something?
Well, just, it's a broader question for us, but signage along the exits along the Merritt Parkway, is there some way that AutoCast can be accessible as people are driving? I mean, I think we have other services that we would probably want to put on our exit signs if that were allowed by the state. I don't even know.
Yeah. Now, and I haven't had further conversations, but in Ridgefield, I know they were saying, if we have a number of people, maybe we could create like a culture trail in the area to let people know.
Everyone has a number.
Or something, there might be an interesting way to kind of, let know, because anybody in Ridgefield using it would see you guys and vice versa. And, that happens now anyway, but to create sort of a larger encompassing
But even the name of the streets, why is Forest Street called Forest Street? Was there some reason for that? Or, all this kind of historical stuff that's out there to keep people moving around the town.
Yeah, I mean, I don't ask me, because obviously I think there's a reason to use it for anything and everything. Like I said,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that I would have found it interesting to listen to the story of a 350-year-old tree in Missouri, but it was interesting.
Yeah.
One of the things about New Canaan is there's a lot of runners and walkers, and we have some wonderful parks. I'm wondering if there could be one aspect that identifies the different parks and some of the trails, and maybe we could get
Land Trust,
the YMCA involved, the Athletic Shoe Factory.
You could do a fitness. I'm doing you absolutely could do a fitness trail. You could have a with the pockets. Now that you're here, drop and give me 20. I mean, you could do stuff like that. Frankly,
can we show where parking is?
Not real time, but yeah. I mean, yeah.
We have a great new parking map, thanks to BJ, on the town website right now. It's all been revised, shows where all the 2-hour parking is, the paid parking. All
that's cool.
Yeah, that's a big improvement. All right, Eric, I think what we're going to do is what you missed in the beginning of this meeting is we're dividing up all these ideas of things that we want to work on into these 4 different groups. I think we're going to ask this one group to work with you a little more closely and get this off the ground. I mean, Nancy, if you've got an intern that can help with that over the next few weeks, and at least get, like we said, the Nature Center, the Carriage Barn, Silvermine Art Guild, all of those on board, and get the audio beefed up for the ones that are there. I think then we can start doing some promoting. I don't want to promote it quite yet because it's really not robust.
Right.
But that said, looking at the statistics, and again, some of these could have been me testing and stuff, but I do show that since February, the Grace Farms was accessed 48 times, the museum 59 times, the Glass House 60, and the welcome message 45 times.
Okay.
But I mean, again, it could have been a combination of us testing and Nancy's intern and so forth. But considering,
there's a ton of potential.
Yeah.
And you've got a great product, and I love your enthusiasm. You're very knowledgeable.
No, I try. The aggregate pianos, by the way, just for the month of June, was 1,664 times. So just so you know.
I mean, I think that's part of what sells it to the storekeep, the restaurants and stores, is the amount of people that, some examples of what kind of business you can drive.
Yeah, the very first guide that I did was here. I'm in Ossining, New York, for those who don't know.
Yeah.
Was a restaurant that paid to be in it, but her audio said, mention you heard about us in the guide and we'll give you a free dessert, right, with every lunch you purchase. So that was a real simple but discreet way for her to really
even to get a drink, an opening drink with your meal, and some kind of, I don't know, coupon or some kind of thing they can show, and that way you can record the people who are in there.
Exactly. You can. It's very measurable. It's very.
I mean, to go back to what we were discussing before, I mean, it's really how many people are on the street that matters, right? I mean, we want to know they're there and that they're busy, and that's also what drives stores to come into town, is to know there are a lot of people on the street. So, yeah.
And that's where some of the ideas. I'm sorry, Rita.
I think that could also be included in one of the reasons why you want to be in New Canaan, that we offer this to businesses.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say that's also why some of the places are doing, like, visit one of the Kansas City ones, visit any 3 coffee houses, and win kind of a thing.
And I think, to Tucker's point, is we'll announce it when we have a little bit more of a critical mass, but when we do, we'll be able to know that right behind it, we have all these other groups joining it. So I think it'll be really great. Yeah, it'll be a good kind of a Q4 thing to.
Yeah. All right. Well, that group will work on that, and we'll get more information going forward.
Great.
I don't want to lose anybody. I know it's late and everybody's.
Yeah, I don't want to take any more of your time, but thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, and sorry for the trouble getting in. I think that was.
Thank you, Eric.
No worries. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Just again, quickly going around. We'll go around the room. Everybody can talk about what's happening. Last bit of business. Laura and I, thanks to Alan Magrino, Alan made a introduction for Laura and I to the woman. What is it, Laura? CT Biz. She used to be
CT Biz.
CT Biz. And we are going to be interviewed for a BizCast about the storefront window project. They think it's very cool. They love that we're doing it. They love the examples that we showed them. And so that will be next Thursday, Laura, that we're being recorded. Yeah. That it will go live Friday or Saturday. So that's something else that we're working on. What do you all have going on?
Is it a podcast, love?
It's a podcast.
Yeah.
It's called Bizcast. She's calling it Bizcast, yeah. Nancy, you did a quick rundown on October for Design, but you're almost sold out, I think you said. Of
we actually now have 20 scheduled events, and we're really thrilled that the galleries have come up with a gallery walk or gallery stroll in the evening on Thursday, and then we have our stuff on Friday and Saturday. But we have events throughout the month. Most of them are free. They're now all up on the October for Design website and the calendar. I'm trying to think that, the kids programs at Walter Stewart's and the Lego in the windows, that'll happen again. Yeah. We've got a bunch of lectures and programs. Frances Palmer, who's a very famous ceramicist now, her work is super popular. She's doing a lunch. We have the house tour, obviously. And the ticket sales were almost, thankfully, Grace Farms and the Glass House expanded capacity. So Friday, we have a few tickets left because we were completely sold out with the wait list, and they have allowed us generously to bring more people. And Saturday, we're about, I would say, 70% full. Okay. So, it's interesting to me that still the issue of where are people going to stay comes up. So our biggest group of out-of-town people are staying in Greenwich. So that's, I think that's a lost opportunity for us because they won't be eating in New Canaan if they're staying in Greenwich.
And so because you just couldn't, there isn't anything ready.
There wasn't enough rooms at the Roger Sherman.
Yeah.
Apparently Hotel Zero has a lot of reviews that it's too noisy. Mm-hmm. And so they didn't want to stay there. And so this is where they've settled.
That is a shame.
I still think that if New Canaan had a hotel with maybe 50 rooms in it, it would really help bring people to town.
Can I ask when? I just want to when is the house tour?
It's the 22nd and 23rd of October.
So Rita, October for Design is a month-long program in October that has been sponsored for years by the New Canaan Museum and Historical Society, and just the tour was, and now this is a whole program around that.
What about building place over in Norwalk?
Came out of TDAC because there was so much discussion by various different groups about, how can we use the mid-century modern architecture? How can this be something more than just a 2-day or a 1-day house tour? And so Laura Pla, and fortunately TDAC supported it last year to fund the website and the graphic design work. And this year will be kind of the big launch because last year most stuff got canceled.
Okay, so things aren't really up yet because I just went online to kind of find it. It's not, so you haven't.
If you go to the calendar, all 20 events are up.
So it's the count, but so it's not like a web. It's not like, okay, got it.
Not on the website.
I was trying to find out about it. So
did you guys
tried Cafe Dolce? We tried. I mean, not Cafe Dolce, Dolce, the hotel, right, Nancy? You
that
one, yeah, but
they're not answering the phone over there anymore. I don't think. Lakota Oaks. Right.
Oh, that's not good news.
Jack?
No.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I agree with Nancy that I think it would be really good if we had a small hotel in town. And again, I mentioned this town, Hudson, New York. There is a very interesting small hotel in their town, and we would benefit from something like that. Also, I just wanted to mention what's that?
I just don't know where, I mean, I think it would really be helpful. I just don't know where and how that would happen.
Well, but there are places, I mean, I have ideas where it could go. I mean, there are places in town with redevelopment of them that you could put a hotel.
Okay. And it only takes money.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
Someone had said to me, what about where Halo is? That whole unit there. And I was like, ooh, creative.
Yeah. And just one thing about how we look at our town, when I have somebody I talk to, and somewhere during all this discussion, I just wanted to mention this, that we have 20,000 people in town. But when you take all of the towns around and the amount of people that New Canaan draws to, as BJ was saying, because how exclusive we are and the quality of our shops, our reach is so far, and we have to get our information out to that huge reach of North Stamford, Pound Ridge. These people all have patterns, and they come. Greenwich shops in New Canaan, not every day.
The market demand study went into that in depth on ways to do that back in 2011, because we recognized that. Vista, Pound Ridge, you name it, they're all
then that reaching that. And I just have a question too. I mean, how did the sidewalk sale do? I'm just curious about that, because that is a very important economic driver, or used to be. I don't know how it is today.
Yeah, so we it was not as big as prior to COVID, but it was certainly bigger than our kind of very ratcheted back event that happened last year. We did not have enough vendors. We were down, still down 20 or 30%. I was not able to close off Main Street because I didn't have enough people to fill it. So, but it was a successful day. Some businesses had record, sales. We were able to get a lot of our nonprofits back, and the politicians were obviously there. We had music. I think it was a steady crowd throughout the day. And a lot of people shopped on Friday, which was just the sidewalks. The streets weren't closed then. So there were a lot of people in town, a lot of, the savvy local shoppers who want to get the best items as fast as possible. So overall, it was a success. I spent a lot of money on marketing, had a big online buy with Hearst. Obviously, I was in the New Canaanite. I partnered, Live New Canaan covered it. Newcomers put it on some of their social media. Obviously, we had all the posters, and I hired an intern, and she did an extensive 3-week social media campaign, tagging all different businesses and highlighting all the features of the sign. So I think it went really well. Plum's Cheese.
She did a great job. She did a phenomenal job.
And one of the things we took an opportunity to do was the DPW helped us by taking all the barriers out. Laura and I were downtown at 5:30 in the morning on Saturday, and DPW had started about 4:30, taking all the barriers out. They swept the street, cleaned the street before sidewalk sale started, and then by 5:30 that night, they took all the barriers back to the yard where they washed them all out, they scrubbed them all down, and then brought them back by 5:30 that night and lined them all back up, and they look so much better.
Yeah. So we're hoping. What's that, Jack?
My other question is there any testing done to see how well the shops did over from last year to this year or 2 years ago? The actual businesses in town, that's my concern.
It's private information. No one is going to share that. We get anecdotal. I can't test. I can't go around and ask people. Some, I always ask people, how was your day? How's it going? And you get some feedback that way, but it's private data and people are very reluctant to share it. But anecdotally, what I heard was positive, but and I don't there's no testing.
A quantitative thing. I think it was a beautiful day, and there was a lot of people downtown, and it was one of the first times we had, since the pandemic, that there was an event that was so well populated. So I think it bodes well for the future, even if the sales weren't as high as some people would have liked.
Right. And I think, we lost.
The sales were also, a lot of people don't have the same amount of product that they've had in the store in the past. So there's some of that.
Yeah. And we really, I think there's a lot of disrupted supply chains. One of the biggest parts of Main Street was Carl Chevrolet always came every year and paid for a giant kiddie entertainment. And this year they didn't have the cars. They literally could not do it. They're hoping they can come again, but they can't. Wave has moved around the corner. Karen Forbes is gone. I reached out to all vendors who had been on Main Street before, and they just weren't there. And it's a state road, and we couldn't close it. But we're hoping they'll be back again next year, and that that we can fill that area up. Hopefully, the hair salon will want to come out there. First sidewalk sale that they're open. Luscious. So, but overall, I think it was a very successful day, and people enjoyed it. And I think Amanda's right that there was a good energy. And the stores that had interesting product out. I mean, the Vineyard Vines tent, the Bella 2 tent, people were throwing elbows in there. I mean, it was crazy. And when there's great product, people will buy. That is for sure. And like Togs mentioned that her Friday was better than her Saturday, which makes total sense because people really want to get the discounts on those. So, the hardcore people that knew what they were doing got down on Friday.
This was the first year that while I helped Laura out, I wasn't required to be there all day. I just had to be there at 5 o'clock in the morning with her. But so what I did was I actually walked around. Typically I'm always working. And so I never really got to see what was going on. And so I was a shopper, and I was surprised. I don't know if this is a new phenomenon, but I think because it was so hot, so many people were actually inside the stores. I went into the Lily store and it was literally shoulder to shoulder. Now she had some great bargains, but it was cool in there. You could spend some time. She had dressing rooms all set up. So I think there was some of that too with the weather. I mean, it was pretty hot, I have to say. But a good event all the way around.
Well, it's just that it's so important, for the merchants, to have a good day. So I just think maybe doing some testing and seeing how well it was for certain merchants.
But what am I going to test? I mean, I don't understand what you mean by test.
Was it not better than last year? What was your best year?
There's so many factors. I mean, first of all, last year wouldn't be a good measure just because last year was a much smaller version, right? So you're not really looking at apples to apples. And I don't know.
It's I always ask, how was it and stuff like that, but it's proprietary information, and people, a lot of businesses keep that close to the vest.
But we have, or a couple have shared with us, and it was
and also I think as a board there was a number of us that worked the 7 to 9 shift, and we were helping put up tents and make sure electrical was going and all that kind of fun stuff, and they were so energized. They were excited to be there. Some of them first time out, through COVID. So I think the energy was there, which was really, really exciting. And then coming later around 2, energy was still there. People still there. Yeah. So I think by and large, you had a lot of happy retailers.
And Jack, I mean, how a business did is completely contingent on the inventory they put out and what they priced it. Our job is to get the horses to the water. I can't be responsible to make them drink or not. That's why I made sure I invested in, filled up different community calendars to put it on there. So what happens, it is based on inventory and price.
Right. And,
and I agree with you. Vineyard Vines was, if you have the product, the people were there. I agree with that.
And their prices, I mean, they get it. They want to move that merchandise. So they take, $125 down vest and it's $35, right? And they're going. So.
But anyways, I just think it's such an important day. And I've always found,
we do too.
I've always found merchants eager to talk about their business, not eager to talk about their numbers. So.
No, but agreed, John. What was exciting was to be able to walk around in the afternoon and have retailers still awake and happy. They were still talking about, oh, this is good. And no matter how hot it was, they were still
But
energized.
I think if you do ask them, they can be very specific.
All right, so team, we're coming up on almost 2 hours here. It's been a long week. So we don't meet again officially as a group until the end of September 23rd. I'm assuming at that point, I know I said at the last meeting that I thought we would be in person for this meeting. I have to say, I think I'm looking at you all in your houses. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not. You can get too comfortable at home and maybe nod off. But we can decide if we want to, again, the executive orders allow for remote meetings. So if we want to stay Zoom remote, we can. But for now, let's get those 4 groups going, work amongst yourselves. Certainly reach out if you need anything from me or any of the others. And then I think what I'd like to do is, just so we don't waste a lot of time, is maybe mid to end August, we'll just send out, if everybody could just send sort of a summary of what they've done thus far. Again, no discussion, just information dissemination kind of thing. So we can see where everyone's going. And then we'll get together again as a group on the 23rd. Okay, but I'm counting on everybody to get these work streams that you're working on and the teams that you're working with going. And I'll get to those folks that couldn't be here tonight. I will make sure that they know, you know, hopefully they know, they read the emails, which group they're a part of, but that they will participate as well. Anything else? Greg's sitting in the dark. He doesn't have any electricity. Who knows? Rita's dog has been napping the entire time behind her. You're gonna have to take her out for a walk. The cat's gone to sleep on Nancy's lap.
It's been a long night.
Yeah, and
I didn't realize he was back there. It's so funny.
He's so cute.
Tucker, can I just mention one other thing going around the table, that there definitely seems to be more activity with people renting spaces and looking at spaces. I mean, there definitely seems to be a change. Just want to mention that.
We like to hear that.
Yeah, the space next to Connecticut Muffin has been rented by another female entrepreneur, which we're very, very strong on. She has a business in Fairfield. She used to live in New Canaan. And I mean, I haven't been to the shop, but I just follow her on Instagram for years because I knew her when she lived here. And I think it's going to be a great addition. It's gift and houseware and women's, you know, some clothing and jewelry and stuff. So it's right next to Connecticut Muffin, which will be nice.
Yeah. And we have 2 businesses moving into our commercial space. So we're super excited about that.
Good.
Yeah. Good.
Oh, right. Again, I met the new owner of Cass Freeze, that new gallery, and she's terrific. It's beautiful space in there.
And so, Found is moving to a bigger space, right, Laura?
Found is moving from the west side of Elm Street to where Papyrus was.
Because and that's her space.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
That's all good info. All right, guys, and then follow the other thing. Just follow along with the ARPA discussions. I'll make sure we're all informed on that. But if there's any other meetings or hearings or anything like that, I'll make sure you know. But send any ideas over. Once I get back to you with what the format's going to be, then we'll know where to go with that. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Nancy, second. BJ, all in favor? Aye. Thank you all. Have a good day,
guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tucker.
Bye. Thank you.